In our society within the United States, women are seen as decorative objects in heterosexual relationships. This is a problem that affects everyone regardless of race, ethnicity, class, age, and ability. It's harmful because as long as it continues, men and women in these relationships will never be truly equal. So, in order to dissolve harmful gender stereotypes, we need to change society's perception of women as decorative objects within heterosexual relationships by spreading awareness through education and the media. In order to understand why this is harmful, we must first recognize that our society views men and women as opposite. This stems from doing gender, which is indicative of our society, and if people do gender, this determines the behavior in social settings. Based on sex, men and women fall into different categories of what is deemed acceptable or appropriate based on their genitalia. Women are then seen as opposite from men, and so as a result, we view them as decorative objects, whereas men are seen as subjects. Even though our bodies are biologically 98% the same, there are just differences in protrusions throughout their bodies. We have constructed a gender binary which forces people into these ideological gender categories of men and women. It's not biology, but society that has determined that it is, and also determines how they are treated differently. So women are expected to follow a certain set of rules. This is harmful to all women, including those of color and of different socioeconomic statuses. As this label suggests, women are literally seen as a decorative piece that should be as physically attractive as possible for men. This is why so many cosmetic companies and other advertisements use conventionally beautiful women to create impossible beauty standards that women feel compelled to follow because of how our society views women. In order to be a proper decorative object, women are supposed to be thin, white, and have an hourglass figure. These ideas translate into the beauty industry, where even with plus-size models, clients will use thinner plus-size women to appeal to the public preference for a thin face and an hourglass figure. These impossible beauty standards reinforce stereotypes about women's appearances and how they must be a decorative object in order to attract men.
Cosmetic companies also play on these insecurities by selling their products with the assumption that women are always hungry, because women are supposed to be thin. Companies even sell their products with food-related scents so women will buy it because they think if they can't eat it, at least they can smell it. These cosmetic companies play on other societal beliefs, such as how women are seen as penetrable. This is a marketing tool used by cosmetic companies selling their products. Advertisements will often use language alluding to how the product will penetrate women's skin because of how ingrained this social norm has become. Men can also be penetrated, but are never advertised in that way because men are viewed as the ones doing the penetration. This stems from the concept of a man's penis as a figurative sword and a woman's vagina as a sword holder, which it literally translates to in Latin. Women are seen as objects in this relationship, and this can become physically dangerous for them. Because of the social script that says men are strong and violent and women are vulnerable and inherently rapeable, it perpetuates the idea of women as decorative objects instead of subjects. This is extremely problematic because if women are seen as objects or property who can't fight back in these situations, it can be extremely harmful. If we can change the perception of women as objects, it will stop men from thinking they have power to use their penis as a weapon. This example of gender inequality also exists within the home, and it determines who's the breadwinner. It's a common misconception, particularly in white middle-class families, that men are supposed to work outside the home and women are supposed to work inside taking care of the home and children. This reinforces the idea of oppositeness and how men are perceived to have more agency than women who are confined by the concept of being a decorative object. These ideas of oppositeness are taught at a young age. It's ingrained in girl children that they're supposed to dress and behave a certain way, and this translates into adulthood.
The perception of women as decorative objects is such a constant in our society because we grow up learning what to do and what not to do in accordance to our gender. To be feminine and to do gender properly is to present yourself in a manner that will attract the opposite sex. This begins in preschool, and because these rules aren't directly taught in school curriculum, it is harder to challenge and change these beliefs. If girl children were taught at a young age that they don't need to look or act a certain way to attract boy children, it could really make a difference. For example, if teachers in the classroom treated girl children and boy children the same and didn't tell them how they should act, this would decrease the chance of women being seen as decorative objects later in life. Viewing a man and a woman as opposite is what creates these stereotypes about women. Education that directly calls these ideas into question could benefit not only children, but people of all ages and from all different backgrounds. Learning and understanding that just because this is the norm in our society doesn't mean that it's right can allow us to challenge these ingrained behaviors. Our solution is to increase equality by changing perceived stereotypes about women as decorative objects. And this can start by people taking steps as simple as educating themselves on the subject and participating in media campaigns. As a college student, some ways to help are to enroll in a gender course in order to gain information on gender issues. Another aspect of our solution is to redefine what it means to be a woman by changing the perception of women in the media and in advertisements. If we can have men in addition to women as the faces for these media campaigns, it will reach a broader audience and have a bigger impact. For example, if college students were to start a rally on campus about gender equality, we would be able to spread awareness on this topic so individuals can have knowledge on it before they form an opinion. Another way to increase awareness is to start trends on social media about these issues within our society that people often don't realize are happening. For example, posting things with hashtags about gender equality can begin to generate buzz that can lead to change. Eventually, with the power of the media and education, we can spread these messages and increase awareness to change how we should see women as subjects instead of decorative objects. Let's make change together.